57 vehicles, you are giving it to parliamentarians. Where is the source? The parliamentarians themselves should challenge that.
Next, TRRC and GBC, no opposition. All other parties, that doesn't concern you people, either UDP or NRP or PPP, they are all in the government. Man, dama against edikali mu nek $450. Man musuma se alata du musuma sa anda.
Yow xaliss bobu num fa ñëwé lolu nga wara ñikal laccé because social security institution do xam lé social security waru fa ñaka xaliss yefi profit social security lolu wahi waxtani bandala lolu dafa wara automatique
baro lu mako ñaan moy na wacce 3 years am su démé 5 years dafa am problème leadership bu fi bay dafa bon right now amu direction bu correct réew mi ñepp sen disap am na disappointment ci nguri borom
benn nit munta jagal réew da nga def li nga wara def bayyi keneen ñu continuer
Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the TRRC public hearings for today. But before we start our proceedings, may I ask our religious leaders to offer prayers. Imam C, you have the floor, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل والله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر نفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر وسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you very much, Imam C. Bishop Odiko, you have the floor, please.
O Lord God of grace, God of truth, God of compassion, God of mercy, God of forgiveness, we ask that you look kindly upon our human frailty. Forgive our imperfections. Forgive the wrongs that we have committed. And help us to be brave enough to come out with the truth and seek for reconciliation and healing as we continue our sitting in the TRRC. We ask that the Holy Spirit will guide and direct all the proceedings. And at the end of the day, all will augur well for good. In Jesus' mighty name we pray, praise and thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Bishop Odeko. Council, are we ready to continue from yesterday afternoon?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. We are ready to proceed. May I ask that the witness be brought in? Thank you. Good morning, RSM Jeng. Welcome back to the Commission. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you, Mom. Assalamu alaikum.
I would like to remind you that you are still under oath.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So we will continue your testimony from where we left off yesterday.
Yes.
I recall that you told us that on the 23rd of July, certain events took place. Then later that night, around 2 a.m. in the morning, you were escorted to Mile 2 prison by Captain Dursham and the driver, Corporal Damfa.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you stopped your testimony at the point where you entered Mile 2 prison.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
If I may interrupt just a little bit, Counsel, witness, Mr. Jeng.
Yes, sir.
You had arrived at Mile 2. You are not at Mile 2 here. You're a
Yes,
free
sir.
man here.
Yes,
So
sir.
feel free with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on that day, you were taken to Mile 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what happened immediately upon your arrival at Mile 2?
Yes, ma'am. Counsel, before I start on that, I forget to mention something yesterday when the council member came to the camp before what led to my detention. Just want to read that out.
Well, yesterday you told us about the visit by Lieutenant Sanasabli.
Yes, ma'am.
And subsequently you told us about the visit by Lieutenants Edward Sinyate and Sadibu Haidara.
Yes, ma'am.
Are those what you'd like to elaborate
Yes,
upon?
about Lieutenant Sanasabali's visit.
If
The
I
short
can,
paragraph.
sure, if I can just ask you to allow a few seconds between our speeches to allow the interpreters to interpret what we're saying. Can you refer us to the paragraph of your statement that you would like to read out?
Paragraph 46, but just before 47, highlighted in red.
Please proceed.
I forgot to mention that when Sana Sabali came to the camp, and after, when the vehicle started rolling, going back, they stopped, came back, and we had the conversation, of which later I found out from one of their guards that the reason why he came back and said, hence I choose not to be part of it, I can stay and wait, and they will let me know my fate, was an advice they got from Captain Samsudin Sar, who was with them at the time, who told them that it was not, who told them that it's not safe leaving me behind at that time. That could spell trouble for them, that, which later led to my arrest. I forgot to mention that.
So yesterday you told us about the conversation with Lieutenant Sanasabali.
Yes.
So if I'm correct,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
only addition you wanted to make was in relation to Captain Samsudin
Yes.
Sar. Can you tell us who told you about this information?
So it was Sana Sabali's Oddly.
Can you tell us the name?
I choose to keep it this time, ma'am. Right.
Can I ask why?
He feels at the moment not okay, but if he needs to come and testify, he will do so.
I'm going to ask the usher to come around with a piece of paper for you to write the name on the paper, and we will not mention it in public session. Thank you very much for that information. So is it your testimony that the person whose name you've written on the paper informed you that it was Captain Sarr who told Sana Sabali that if you were left at the camp, that it could spell trouble for them?
Yes, ma'am.
You also stated that, in fact, that is what led to your arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the same individual tell you that, or is that an inference you're making?
Yes, because it was after that they choose then to come after me.
So it is your opinion that that is what led to your arrest, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And again, I was told by the chief clerk, who I can mention, W.O.2 Ja, that that day they went to the army headquarters looking for me heavily armed. That was Lieutenant Edward Singate, Peter Singate, Baj Samba Jallo, and Lance Corporal Lamin Fati, who is now the second in command in the Yundum Barracks.
So W.O.2 Ja told you that these people were looking for you. Did he tell you why?
To evict arrest.
Those individuals came subsequently to the camp, and they didn't arrest you at that point in time, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then some hours later, Captain Durcham came with the driver, Corporal Damfa, and then took you to Mile 2.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that clarification. So upon your arrival at Mile 2, can you tell us what happened immediately upon your arrival? Who received you, and what, if anything, were you told?
When we arrived at Mile 2, we were not received by anyone. It was all soldiers paraded in 2 files, and then I was escorted right through the files to the first gate. The prison guard opened it, went through another gate, and then the third one, that was where security wing number 4 is.
At that point, were you told why you were being arrested?
No, ma'am.
Upon entry into security wing number 4, do you recall which cell you were taken to?
Yes, ma'am. Cell number 3.
I'd like to focus on the prison conditions. Can you describe your cell to us?
Yes, ma'am. Before that, as soon as the doors were locked and then they start moving, there is this soldier who shouted, RSM, all those who betrayed you will come and join you. Up to now, I'm trying to find out who that soldier was. I can't. I was just referred to someone in America that he may be able to help me locate who that soldier was. Okay. Went in, was placed in cell number 3. It was a little size cell, about meter and a half by possibly 3 meters, with a metal frame door with BRCs, a little about...
Sorry, did you say BRC?
BRC rods. The door has a steel plate at the bottom and then BRC doors at the top. Had a little opening at the top, that was the window, which was about 1 foot by possibly 1 foot and a half. And then the bed was just 2 concrete blocks about knee high with about 1 by 12 wooden plank, and we had what we later found out that it was called a chamber pot that we used to ease ourselves, and then that's how the night started.
When you arrived in Security Wing number 4, as far as you remember, were there any other detainees present in that wing?
At the moment, I was the first person to be taken there, no other one.
Can you tell us a bit more about the conditions in the prison? What was your daily routine like? Take us from the morning to night, your first few days upon your arrival.
Yeah. The first couple of weeks, we were on a complete shutdown, no breaks. But gradually, after that, and people start coming in numbers, they start changing it slowly and giving us about, I think, a couple of minutes. That was especially when you go and have your shower, allow you to dry up and then taken back in and locked up again.
Let's take that step by step. When, as far as you recall, when was the first time that other detainees were brought into that wing?
Literally hours after I was in, then a group came. That was it, the people I left in Yundum, including Lieutenant Sirif Gomez, and then Major Chris Davis, yeah. Basically, the people I left at the cells in Yundum.
You told us that you were in solitary confinement.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall for how long you were in solitary confinement? Was it a matter of days or weeks?
Throughout the period I spent in Mile 2, I was in solitary confinement.
Were you allowed to go outside your cell in the first few days?
No, ma'am.
How long did that situation persist? When was the first time you were allowed to leave your cell?
I think after the first 2 weeks. After the first 2 weeks, when the security wing number 4 was full to capacity. And then at that time, the prison guards already got everyone settled in before we were start to be let out. But it started for about like 10 or 15 minutes a day in the morning, because what happened is they come in the morning shift, and then when it is time for lunch, they change shifts. In between that time, they started by taking one by one to have possibly 10 to 15 minutes, and then it develops from there, 2 people at a time. Later, 3 people at a time. That's how it gradually, it was all for them having confidence in the people they were looking after. Once they start having confidence, knowing that possibly what they were made to believe or understand of our arrest is not exactly what they are facing, then where we start to build the relationship, and then it starts developing from there.
Still focusing on the conditions, can you tell us a bit about the food that you were given?
Yes, ma'am. The food was not very good at all, but being detainees and seeing Mile 2 full to capacity, well, we were not expecting that the food will be of any quality, but it was not the nicest of what we had, yeah.
Can you tell us what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
For breakfast, we do have something they call pap or porridge, To be quite honest, I don't know what it is made of. But I was more worried about the containers they were being prepared or served from, to be quite honest, than eating it.
Can you tell us about the containers they were served in?
You see the containers, the condition, the state of the containers, they were very, 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 very dirty, to be quite honest. But at the time, like I said, it's like you are in solitary confinement. Well, you have to try and control your mind. That was what you have. I was not going to commit hunger strike or suicide for anybody. So I have no choice but to eat it. So I just try to make myself as much possible comfortable to eat it.
And what about lunch?
Lunch? At times it's different, but to be quite honest, it wasn't a very pleasant plate we were being served. Very dry. And I could remember some people even were complaining of constipation there, including myself, because the food being served for lunch, very, very dry. Not of a quality at all. It was horrible. But again, if you look at it this way, knowing that we were just few in number comparing to the convicts, honestly, it wasn't good.
Was this rice or some other type of meal?
Rice. It was rice for lunch.
Were you served anything else with the rice?
At times it comes with the common fish we have in the Gambia, kobo, or I think it was only once, if I can remember, we had meat, which we really, really rejoiced when I was in security wing number 4. It was only once, I think, we had meat, each one piece.
What about dinner? What were you served for dinner?
At dinner, they will first come, someone will be in front and ask you what you want, wet or dry. Wet or dry. It's cherry, but they will ask you whether you want it wet or whether you want it dry. Wet means they will apply some sauce commonly known as nye here, with again one piece of kobo. If you want dry, they give you the dry cherry without anything. Most of us, and people like myself, we do tend to choose dry, because then we found out that there is a lot of powder, possibly from the coos, after pounding it, that they don't clean properly. So what we tend to do is take the dry and then try wash it yourself before eating it. That's why they come up with wet or dry.
You also mentioned that an important part of your experience was also controlling your mind.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about the coping mechanisms that you used while you were in prison?
Well, it was because if I take myself back to the training I had in Senegal, the conditions were very tough there. Very, very, very extremely tough. And the food there also was not up to the standard what we were expecting, but it's like we said we are here for a training and every day is -1. So in mile 2, not knowing when, how, where would someone come in to say that's the end of your time here, if you start focusing on what the food was provided, should I eat it, should I not eat it, you'll just be definitely not doing good to yourself. So for the food, to be quite honest, was something that I just have to accept. I have no choice. That was what was provided, whether you have it or not. So I just shut my mind of thinking about the condition of the food also. It was not good. But I have to eat it in order to survive, because I don't know when am I going to leave that place.
What else did you do in order to cope with your circumstances?
I choose not to involve in the conversation the detainees were having there. I just try to relax myself, focus. To be quite honest, I was more worried of what people are going through, what was happening outside, than how I was inside.
And in fact, I was going to ask you about your family. You told us that the morning prior to your arrest, you went to work, essentially business as usual. You didn't know you were going to be arrested. Can you tell us when was the first time you spoke to your family or saw members of your family?
None of my family members did I spoke to or were able to have the opportunity to come and pay a visit to me at Mile 2. Because they tried and those were not open for them. And there I was made to know that Yankuba Ture tried to deny my family all efforts to be able to reach at me. That even council members at the time would agree and then set a date, only to find out later that Yankuba Ture would deny them that.
Who told you this?
My family members and even some of the serving soldiers at the time.
They told you that the council members agreed, but it is Yankuba Ture who
would later advise that it's not safe for them, for my family and myself to be given the opportunity to come out and meet any of them.
And when you say Yankuba Ture, who are you referring to exactly?
Yankuba Ture, who was later a council member, lieutenant at the time.
During your time in prison, well, in detention, were you ever given access to a lawyer?
Never, ma'am.
At any point, were you told the reasons for your arrest and detention?
No, not at all, until September 5th, when I was served with a decree number 3 stating why I was arrested and detained, and that the vice chairman, who was Sana Sabali at the time, reserved the right or powers to review it after 3 months or something like that.
So that was the first that you heard of any reason to do with your detention or any procedure in relation to your detention?
Yes, ma'am. And subsequently, up to now, I've tried to find out why, but no one comes up with the answers. Until when my mom was escorted to the former president's mom, because at the time, one of his uncles was learning the trade of carpentry to my dad, whom they said at some point just fled, wouldn't come back. My dad tried to find out why, until one of his cousins told my dad that he said he cannot face you at all again anymore. My father found out why. The man told him that he said because his nephew, who was Yaya Jame, is part of those who were responsible of the arrest and detention of your son. My dad told him that it has nothing to do with him and it shouldn't be his business, as when my son chose to join the military, he went and joined even before coming to tell me. So let him come and continue his trade, and then inshallah we look forward to the future. This was when he came back, still couldn't swallow it, have to take my mom to Yaya's mom in Bakau. And then according to what my mom told me, when they went there, Yaya's mom and Yaya's uncle were there, and then they called him. As soon as he knew why they were calling him, he sort of avoided coming. But my mom was asked to go and they will get back to her. And when they got back to her, what she was told is, Yaya said, there was nothing I did or said, but they themselves, the council members, knew me very well. And with the exception of himself, the rest all were directly under me at some point. And they think for their own security and safety for this country and myself, it was best to just leave me where I was. That was to be in detention. And that whenever they have council meeting or to decide on who to release, who not to release, my name is always on top of the list, but even themselves at council level, no one would choose to mention or talk about my name until they finishes their meeting, and that would continue and continue and continue. Again, whilst we were in detention, we had someone there whom later we found out that was Yaya Jammeh's uncle called Ablai Bojang. That guy was exceptional for all the detainees in Mile 2.
Who was that man?
Popul Ablai Bojang.
What was his role?
He was a prison guard officer. That guy would go beyond his call of duty to help any prisoner. There is no single detainee who sent that guy to your family without him going and then come back to give you a message from your family. He was the very one, actually, whom I gave my detention order to take to my family. I remember I had some money in me because at Yundum camp, because no one searches me, I went into the cell with some money. I was trying to give him some money. He wouldn't accept it. I said to him, it will not have any use for me here. I have to force him, and then I even have to throw the money to him for him to pick, and then smuggle out my detention order.
You mentioned Yaya Jammeh's uncle who treated you well, the detainees. Can you tell us about the treatment you received from other prison guards, prison officers?
The first person we came into contact with was someone called Thomas Jaju, whom I would describe as a very wicked and mean guy. That guy had no heart. He was very heartless. Because he himself told us that if he doesn't know you, he can have sympathy for you. So, which we believe, and he was the most senior among the prison guards who were looking after us at the time. So we believe he was the one responsible of the tough conditions we were enduring there.
Did he do or say anything to you in particular? Is there any particular incident you remember that makes you describe him as you have?
Yeah, he's the type of guy that would enjoy inflicting pain on you and sitting down, seeing you going through hell. Whatever request you make or demand, he always comes up with the excuse that I have to seek it from the vice chairman Sana Sabali. Then that telling you that it's a no-go area. It was a dead end.
So he denied many of your requests. That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
While you were in prison, did you receive any visit by any members of the public or the council members at all?
By?
Either members of the public or the council members themselves. I want to know if you had any visits by anyone while you were in prison.
Yes, I had one visit. That was from a lady called Fat Sow, daughter to Uncle Mambuba Jallo, whom was very fond of all the soldiers. Up to now, I don't know how she managed to get the access granted and then pay the visit.
Can you tell us a bit about that visit?
Yeah, actually, that visit should have come later. Is it okay?
That's fine. Let's start with September 1994. Is there anything in particular that you recall happening during that month?
Yes, ma'am. In September 5th, 1994, that was when we were served with the detention orders, and then all the detainees' positions were rearranged again. People were moved from one cell to the other, but I stayed at the cell that I was in. And could remember around about 4 p.m. or so, prison officer Jobate.
Do you recall his first name? Perhaps I can just refer you to paragraph 51 of your statement, which refers to prison officer
Srifo Jobate.
Thank you. Please continue.
Yes, ma'am. He came and stood before me, my cell door, and said to me, "You people should just take courage." That he thought this was going to be a short exercise, but it doesn't look like it.
What was going to be a short exercise?
Our detention. And then later that night, in the early hours of just before midnight, I believe. Yeah, just before midnight, between 8 and 10, I believe, yes. When all cells were locked, we had a visit led by Sana Sabali, Edward Singate, Sadibu Haidara, Yankuba Ture, all with their orderlies, with the exception of Yaya Jammeh. When I had the noise, where I was, it was right, the door entering into security wing number 4, that's where my cell was, I stood up and saw them coming in, heavily armed. They came, but could not find the keys anywhere. The arcs of the keys went round. No keys were found. They quietly went away.
Did they say anything at that point? Did they speak to any of you?
No, ma'am.
Did they do anything else while they were there?
No, ma'am.
Please continue.
And then come the fateful day of September 6th. First thing in the morning, the prison officer, Srifo Jobate, was arrested and then detained together with us. it was there that we found out that his arrest was simply because the night before they came and could not find the keys, that he chose at the time to lock the whole prisons, put the keys in the safe, and then left. We found out why he did that. He said because he doesn't want to be called tomorrow to testify of what happened to people who were already in custody under his care.
Are you suggesting that there was an indication that the council members would visit that night, which is why he did that? Or was that normal procedure?
That was the night before, September 5th, that when they came and could not get access to us, the detainees. The following morning, Jobate, who was the head and on duty at the time, was responsible of all the keys, which he kept away that denied them access to get to us. So he was arrested for that.
What I'm trying to find out is whether it was normal procedure for Jobate to lock all the prison doors and put the keys away, or did he know that something was supposed to happen later that night?
Yeah, because I believe he must have done law, prison laws or whatever, that would tell him that if people are under custody, and I think it's in the prison laws, rules or whatever, that after a certain time, prisoners cannot be just visited. I should think so. He uses his own discretion, maybe sensing something that was really unexpected to happen. He chooses to secure our life at that night.
But he didn't tell you why he did that. Is that correct?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
But the indications were there, which we are very grateful for him.
So please continue. Can you tell us what happened after that?
Yes, September 6th, after when Jobate was arrested and then brought in to join us, when we had this conversation with him, then we were really bracing up ourselves, thinking that something else is going to happen. But because of what happened to us, and we were detained there, to be quite honest, the other officers, there were very few that I do communicate with at the time in detention. So September went on to the night, round about, I think about around 1 a.m. going to 2 a.m. I'm not so remember the time. They came again, with the exception of Yaya Jammeh.
Can you name the individuals who came again?
Lieutenant Sana Sabali, Lieutenant Edward Singate, Lieutenant Sadibu Haidara, Lieutenant Yankuba Touré, Lieutenant Peter Singate, and I can fully remember seeing Lance Corporal Lamin Fati, who is now the 2IC at Yundum Camp, Bach Samba Diallo, Ibrahim Abba, W2 Ibrahim Abba.
Can you tell us the rank of Bach Samba Diallo?
He was a private
at the
soldier.
time? Please continue.
Came with the rest of their orderlies. And then we start hearing them shouting the name of Captain Mamad Cham. Doors were opened. They were with Antusedi, who was a prison commissioner. And I believe, I'm not sure, Pierre Marong, whether he was there or not, I'm not sure. I assume being the prison commissioner. They came, opened the doors, and they were shouting, Mamad Cham, Captain Mamad Cham, where is he, where is he? They went to his cell. Cell was open, he was dragged out, and from where my cell is, I could see exactly if he comes out of his cell, I could see him. Edward Singate hit him on his nose the butt of the AK with the rifle, I believe it was AK-47, on his nose. Blood starts spilling all over. He was put in a handcuff. They started it in the cells by kicking him, hitting him, drag him out. At the time, we didn't know where exactly they took him. A couple of minutes later, we had a volley of shots fired, which was very alarming. We thought that, at the time, we thought that he was executed. And then later, they came back, and this time they came for me. And when they came, start shouting my name, RSM Jeng is next, RSM Jeng is next. I came out. Before I came out, they wanted someone to come in and put the handcuffs on me. But the soldier that they gave the handcuffs was standing there trembling, and then trembling and crying. They just pushed him aside and then gave the handcuffs to Antuseri, who was the prison officer with them at the time. So he came in. My left arm was put in the handcuffs. So I said to him, can I come out so you can do it properly? So as Antuseri was coming out backwards, he stumbled on someone, and I was already in one handcuff. I stumbled on him, and then it was a big commotion there. Maybe they thought I was trying to take an arm or what. Edward Singate came from the back and gave me a very, very, very hard stamp on my back. I fell down and I nearly collapsed because I could hurt my neck because after my accident, I had a piece of string in my neck to stabilize it, which later I found out that it moved from its position. So I was helpless. I went down. And then a lot of kicking from him, his brother, at this time.
When you say him, who are you referring to, and who's the
Edward
brother?
Singate.
And the brother?
Brother Peter Singate. And I believe Yankuba Ture and Baj Samba Diallo at this time. They were the one doing the kicking, thinking that maybe I was trying to get arm or so. Because I was in so much pain, I couldn't get up. I was on my knees. And then I was dragged out all the way to where we later found out that there was security wing number 1 right next to the gallows, where I was on my knees because I was in so much pain I couldn't bear. And then later when I was able to stand up, I stood up and I was right against the wall. About 3 soldiers were in front of me, pointing their guns, and they were asked to get ready. And then it was there that Yankuba Ture said to me I should say my last prayers because that was going to be the end. And I said to him, and then what? The fact that I say, and then what? He insulted my mom, which I found more painful to me from Yankuba Ture than what I went through that night. For Yankuba Ture to stand in front of me and insult my mom, I found more painful to me than what I went through that night. Because what I went through, I personally was expecting to be executed at any time. But what Yankuba Touré said to me was more painful to me than what I went through.
You mentioned that there were 3 soldiers who were pointing their guns at you. Do you recall who those soldiers are?
No, ma'am, it was dark.
Please continue.
Then they were asked to be on the ready position. All weapons were cocked.
Asked by who? Do you recall?
Singate, Edward Singate.
Please continue.
The fact that they asked me to say my last prayers, I believe I was going to be executed. Then I said to myself, now that is the end, I will end my life by saying the kalimatu, La ilaha illallah, till I die.
I'm so sorry for what you went through, RSM. Please take your time, drink some water, and then we'll continue. If you need a break at any point, just let us know.
Yes, ma'am. Whilst I was realizing La ilaha illallah, I could feel the cold coming, starting from my feet, coming right over my head. Then at that time, I just wanted it to end there. I wanted it to just end there. But whilst they were there, I could not remember whether it was the radio or telephone. We could hear someone talking and then asking them where were they, and they could not say where they were at the time. They move away, and then before they move away and then came back, this was Edward Singate, Yankuba Touré, Sadibu Haidara, moved away and was talking to whoever was at the other end. They came back and said to me, that's it then. You're finished now. Because one of the soldiers in front of me was trembling, he made a negligent discharge. That is making a mistake, releasing a round that went right over my head, through the wall, and then everything stopped at that. And then they asked Antusedi to place me in one of the cells there. That was now in security wing number 1.
Did the 3 soldiers who had their weapons pointed at you fire their weapons at any time? During that?
One fire, but it was by mistake. That's what we call negligent discharge. Because he was trembling, you could see it in him. He was trembling, I could see in him.
During this time, do you recall where Sana Sabali was?
He was there.
Did he do or say anything to you?
They were all together. They were all together. Sana Sabali was there. Because he led them, he was the most senior.
You said thereafter you were placed in security wing number 1?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Did anything else happen that night after what happened to you?
Yes. In security wing number 1, we had, I think, about 12 cells there. And I was placed, if you enter the far left, if you enter on your left, which I later found out that was number 1. And then, after a couple of minutes, before they left, whilst I was in security wing, standing there, they fired a volley of rounds in the air, just like they did when Mama Cham was taken out. And then after that episode with me. Later, as I was in there, I had them kicking and dragging someone else. At the time, I didn't know who he was, and then was heavily tortured him heavily, and then when he was placed in the cell, as all of us were going through a lot of pain, then we could hear each other's pain, crying of pain, and then I whisper Captain Mamad Cham's name, whom they first took out, and then Chongan called me. Then I know that it was Chongan. So that's how we found out that it was 3 of us in there.
You mentioned that the third person was tortured heavily.
Yes, ma'am.
And you later identified that it was the 3 of you, including Chongan, who came after you. Can you tell us his first name?
Ibrahima Ismaila Chongan.
You said that he was heavily tortured. Was that in front of you, or could you hear what was happening?
I was already in the cell. They were with him outside. You could just heard what was going on. And it was all based on, to be quite honest, just being upset with him also.
So after you found out that the other 2 people, so it was yourself, Mamad Cham, and Ibrahima Chongan?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what happened after that?
After that, we were left there, and they left, and no one came to attend us or help us with our injuries.
Can you tell us what injuries you sustained?
To start with, my neck was in severe pain. My neck was in severe pain. There was even swollen, the back. I had bruises because I was dragged, kicked at, a lot of bruises and cuts all over.
Do you recall the injuries that the other 2, Mamad Cham and Ibrahima
Mamad Cham was suffering from a bleeding nose, and you could see the catalytic of his nose was even one-sided, and other injuries. Likewise, Chongan as well. Chongan had serious wounds, very visible.
On which part of his body?
His legs and hands, especially his legs, yes.
You stated that you didn't receive medical treatment for
a period of time.
When did you finally receive any form of medical treatment?
I can't remember exactly, but it was after some time.
Was it a matter of days or a matter of weeks?
I would say days before the prison medic, couple Buba Jame, came. Buba Jata, I think. The medic that gave testimony here.
And when he came, what kind of treatment did he administer?
He only came with, at the time, what we known to be a GV pain. That was all he had to apply for us. He really felt sorry for us, and he really did help us. He tried really throughout our stay there. He tried his maximum best, and we really appreciated that. He was one prison guard again who really sympathized with us and was really, he would go out his way to do anything to help us. And when I had him, gave him testimony counsel, all that he said here, A to Z, was exactly as it was. Nothing flawed in his statement. We are very grateful to him. He really helped us out there.
How did it feel being in security wing number 1, just the 3 of you, isolated from the rest of the detainees?
Was very painful. Was very painful. Was very painful, and especially after what we were subjected to. It was very painful, very isolated, because I remember the first 4 weeks or more, we were under complete shutdown. We were not allowed to have showers or nothing whatsoever, even to come out of our cells. Because in the morning, so when they come, heavily escorted by armed soldiers, they will open our cells one by one, and then the prison guard will just take your chamber pot, go and empty it with your bottle, get some water, come and place it in your bag into your cell, and then they left. That alone was a mental torture for itself, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the prison conditions in security wing number 1 compared to security wing number 4, where you had just left, where you had stayed for a few months?
Yes. Security wing number 1, the simple fact that is meant for those who are sentenced to death or about to be executed for whatever crimes, that knowing that alone is its torture of its own. And then we were there with the concept that they're coming back anytime to complete whatever they started. That's the nightmare we have, and then have to live with that. And it was terrible. And then at the time, I remember, it looks like the cells were not used for some time, and it was infested with rats. So actually, they were our friends that we have to accept and live with them in our cells.
During the time that you were in security wing number 1, were you visited by any authorities?
We were not visited from September 6 until October 14. The dates I have to find out before being able to get it right to put it in my statement.
In fact, that was going to be my next question, knowing how you are with dates. How did you find out the dates of these particular events?
I later found out from Chongan's testimony, because whilst we were in prison, he was very fond of writing, taking notes. And then that said to me, he must have got it right. And then, remember, wherever he compiled his little writings, he tries to get them out.
So you were able to keep track of the dates based on Chongan's contemporaneous record keeping. Please continue. What happened on the 14th of October?
Just before the visit, that was the first time Thomas Jaju tried to elevate our conditions there, which was very, 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 very surprisingly unusual for us to accept. So we tried to find out why, but he couldn't tell us, tried to get us to even save, etc., etc., but we were not having that. And then we were visited by the then Army Commander, Babukar Jatta, was a Lieutenant Colonel at the time, I believe, Major Dennis Koka, the Director General of NSS at the time, Samba Ba, who is late right now, the former Inspector General of Police at the time, Jibril Diouf, and then they came to see our situation and condition. But Thomas Jaju, being who he was, didn't want us to explain to them what happened. We told them, you must be joking. Because what we've already been subjected to, they might as well come and finish it. But whoever steps here will let you know.
So did you tell this delegation about what happened to you?
Yes, we told them what happened. And it was, at that time, I requested for them to help me with the neck collar I normally use to support my neck. Because all this time I was without it and I was going through hell at the time. And, sorry ma'am, the prison medic as well, Buba, tried everything to get me the collar.
Considering your injury, how were you able to support your neck while you slept?
I had nothing. I was just going through hell at the time.
So during the visit of this delegation, you made a request for this collar, the brace. What else happened during the visit?
Well, they took notes of all our concern and then went. And then I remember it was then, after their visit, then we were issued with blankets. We had no blankets at the time. It was after their visit that we were issued with blankets.
At some point, did you receive the collar, neck collar that you requested?
Yes, ma'am. But it was in between Buba Jata, the prison medic, and the army medic at the time, whom I believe was Sar. In between them, they managed to get me the collar. And that was me.
You mentioned that you were given treatment by Corporal Jatta. You mentioned the GV paint.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that sufficient to heal the injuries that you sustained? Did you receive any further medical treatment?
No, ma'am, because they will, the three of us will not be allowed to go out, even for our colleagues in security wing number 4 to know that even we were still alive and are still within the prison complex. Nobody, they tried to just isolate us completely from anybody knowing that even we were there. To the extent that even when lunch, it was time for lunch also, whoever is escorting the lunch from the main yard, they will just open the main gate, one of the doors to leading you into security wing number 1, place it there, and then the guard we have, prison guard we have, will take it and then bring it to us, just for no one to know that we are there.
So you've mentioned the visits rather, by council members. You mentioned the 5th and the 6th of September. You mentioned the visit by the Army Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Babukar Jatta, and his delegation.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive any subsequent visits after that?
Yes. Again, I will refer to dates from Chongan. Before that, in around the 2nd of November, the 2nd of November, I started urinating blood. When I used the toilet, it was blood. And even if I spit, it was blood. I didn't know why. I reported it, but would not have the chance to go out and see a doctor. Which something happened. Can I skip that till later, please?
As you wish.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you receive any other visits after the visit of the Army Commander, Jatta?
Yes. After that period of November 2nd, remember November 11, in the morning, very unusual, the prison guard, the guard who was on the, used normally be at the tower, what they used to do is they opened their radio for us to listen to what was happening. And being the RSM, I was expecting the parade, Remembrance Day parade, to be aired out, but it was not. It was just music, music, music. And then, before that, sorry ma'am, in the early hours of November 11, we had a lot of vehicle movements to the extent that we were worried ourselves what was going on. We didn't know. After...
Sorry, around what time of the day?
At night, just after midnight. After midnight.
So you heard vehicles coming in and out of the prison?
A lot of vehicle movements with high speed, in and out, in and out, in and out.
But at the time you didn't know what that was?
We didn't know. We were isolated. We didn't know.
Did you come to find out what that was about?
Yes, later.
Okay, please continue.
So, because the guard used to have his radio on for us to listen to news or whatever is happening in the country, in November 11 itself, it didn't happen. I was really looking forward to listening to the parade, but that didn't happen at all. And then, just after that, I had a very, very, very severe toothache. I tried to go out, they wouldn't let me. Sir, the medic, tried everything. He was unable to get me any authorization to go to the hospital to get any treatment. Because what they came back to tell me was, Lieutenant Sana Sabali would need to authorize that, and they were not getting anywhere. After that, on around about the 30th of November, that was when we had a visit from the Red Cross. And then just before the visit, Thomas Jaju again, the prison officer, remember coming in, tried to issue us with blankets again, to have a second blanket after Babukar Jatta's visit. And then we said, no, we're not having it. There must be something going on. Actually, I think this was the time he wanted us to start saving also. And then we were very suspicious that maybe something is about to happen different from what we went through, because he was trying to be nice this time. So, but it was later that when Red Cross came on the 1st, they were allowed to come and visit us, and it was at this time that we had the opportunity to speak to someone outside and not within even the military setup.
Can you tell us about the Red Cross visit?
Yes. It was through the Red Cross visit when they came, and then Jaju was present, wanting to know what we were going to say or not to a point whereby we have to ask them to see us in ourselves without Jaju being present. And then that request was granted, and then it was there that we explained to them what we went through and what led to us being separated from the others, and then explained everything to them. And then we had evidence of the empty cases of ammunition they were using. And I remember either Chongan, I believe it's Chongan, even found a live round that was dropped there that we kept in our cells, and then all was handed over to the Red Cross delegation. And it was there, I remember, we also tried to make a request for them to get them to move us back to our colleagues. And it was at this time that the Red Cross told us that there was a little bit of a mutiny, in November 11, where some of our colleagues died, but they wouldn't give names. They will not give us names. And then it was at that time too, we were told that they have to go through a lot of obstacles before they were able to get to us, because when they visited those in security wing number 4 and found out that three people are missing from the list, and then 3 people are missing from the list, they went back to the council to find out, and then they were told that we were released. They have to go to our families to confirm if we were released or not. Where they found out that we were not released, they went back, force them to able to give them granted access to us. That was how finally they were able to get access to come and see us. And it was them that told us about November 11, but would not give us names of those who were involved that perished.
Did you subsequently find out further information about what happened on November 11th?
Yes, we subsequently find out.
What did you find out, and from who?
What happened, we were there, and then a group of soldiers were brought in to join us that include WO2 Trawale Abu, Sergeant Nyankabare, Private Njai was a medic. I can't remember the rest, who were allegedly involved in the November 11 incident. And it was there that the first person I asked for was Jibril Sey. Okay. Yeah. Take a look, please. Sorry, Council.
Please don't apologize. Continue.
I asked for Jibril Sey. None of them wanted to have eye contact with me, and they were avoiding it. Avoiding until we were all locked up again. And after, when the prison guards left, that evening my cell was directly opposite to Sergeant Kabare. He whispered my name. I stood up and said to him, "Where is Jibril Sey?" And it was Sergeant Nyang Kabare who told me that Jibril Sey was executed. The way he did it was, Jibril Sey was as if he was gone down. Let me continue. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And then I stopped there. I didn't ask of anybody else. I was very, very, very upset. And then I just kept to myself completely, just shut myself out completely. The following day, it was then again him, Nyankabare, told me of the other senior NCOs who were also executed. Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you the names of those senior NCOs who were executed?
Yes, ma'am.
What were their names?
It was Lieutenant Basiru Baro, Lieutenant Dotfal, Sergeant Fafanyang, Jibril Sey himself, Bakari Mane Nyancho, Lieutenant Bakari Mane at the time, Lieutenant Abdullahi Bah, we call him a chopping, Cadet Amadou Silla, Mamadou Lamine Dabo, Sergeant Basiru Kamara, Sergeant E.M. Cisse, Sergeant Fafanyang, yes, ma'am.
The last question I have on this before we turn to the commissioners and see if they have any questions. Did he tell you how these individuals were killed or who killed these individuals?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us.
Lieutenant Basiru Baro was shot in the head by Edward Singate at Fajara Barracks exactly at 2 a.m. Lieutenant Dotfal was killed at Yundum Barracks by a volley of shots. Lieutenant Edward Singate was responsible, together with his brother Peter Singate. Lamin Fati, who is now a 2IC at Yundum Barracks, together with Baj Samba Jallo. E.M. Cisse, Sergeant E.M. Cisse, was executed at Yundum Barracks, who, before his execution, asked them to kindly allow him to pray 2 rakas. He was stripped naked. They allow him to pray 2 rakas before being shot dead. by, again, Edward Singate, Peter Singate, Alaji Kanyi, and Lamin Fati.
Can you tell us the ranks of the individuals that you've just mentioned?
At the time, Edward Singate was a lieutenant, Peter Singate was a lieutenant, Lamin Fati was a lance corporal, Alaji Kanyi, I believe, was a corporal, I believe. Can't remember his rank. But I believe now he's serving with immigration.
Did Sergeant Kabare tell you anything else about the other individuals who were?
Lieutenant Jibril Sey, Bakari Mane Nyancho, Abdoulaye Ba Achoping, Cadet Amadou Silla, Mohamed Lamin Dabo, Sergeant Basiru Kamara was taken to the range, escorted by then WO2 Papu Gomez, now a lieutenant colonel at the army headquarters. He was the very one who tied them with ropes, placed them at the back of a truck or pickup, placed barbed wire on top of them not to escape, and led them to their execution ground at the Birkama firing range. And those who were responsible of the execution at the range are Lieutenant Edward Singate, Lieutenant Peter Singate, Lance Corporal Lamin Fati, who is now the 2IC at Yundum, Bach Samba Diallo, Alpha Ba, who is late, Mustafa Touré, known as Churo, JCB Mendy, private, Babukar Mboub, who is now in the US, Jali Musa Suso, former TSG guard, Lamarana Diallo, former TSG, and we had a medic answered by the name Koli, I can't remember his first name, and Yunusa Bari. These are the individuals responsible for the execution at the range. And all these executions have been supervised by Lieutenant Sana Sabali.
Of course, you were not present, so this is based on the
Based
information.
on eyewitness account.
You mentioned Sergeant Kabare.
Sergeant Kabare, and I've got another name which I can provide for you on a paper, and he is ready and willing to be contacted to come and face you people and give evidence regarding this account.
Thank you very much, RSM. I will ask the court usher to provide you with a piece of paper so you can write the name.
Yes, ma'am.
And that concludes my question for this session. Over to you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, RSM Jeng. And we take a 30-minute break and come back and we continue the questioning, Council. If that is okay, we will hold our questions until we finish them at the testimony. Is that all right?
That is perfectly fine with us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Splendid. The meeting is adjourned. We resume at 12 noon. Thank you all.